Isn't that nice, Brian? The waving grass in front of them. Really stunning. Ah. Kathy, you want to know if this is the lone male that we saw here yesterday? Kathy, I don't know. Yes, I would say it is the same one, Kathy. If you look at his tail, he's got that fairly sort of poor pom-pom on the back. And he's got that slight limp. Yeah, it's definitely him. Let's move quickly. Marvellous stuff. He's interested. She is clearly not. She's highly mobile. Is that a glove, Brian? Oh, they're mating. They are mating. Her headache is over. I'm not sure that was consummated, to be honest. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't. So she may be just in the sort of early stages of estrus and not quite ready to mate yet. You see, she's kind of growling at him, and now he's a bit confused. Yeah, I don't think they consummated that. I think it was an attempt, but I don't think they actually managed. Because normally what she would do is then growl and flip around, and she absolutely didn't do that. Let's move a little bit closer. Ease our way in here. We are quite close now, so I'm going to move quite slowly and try not to make too much noise. It's not going to affect them at all, I don't think. Ooh, that's Amber Eyes. That's who that is, everyone. That is she of the Amber Eyes. That is a brilliant, brilliant shot, isn't it? Now don't lie down. Ooh. Yeah, no, this is quite close. This is unbelievable. They are so close to us now, everyone. They've flown down 4 feet behind us now. Well, we're going to have to move from here. Brian, hold on tight.
Right.
Or shall we wait here? That's actually quite a nice shot. You tell me when you're ready. We'll go around the other side of them.
Yeah, let's go around.
They're very close, very close. You can see that. That was fantastic. They walked straight towards us. Now, Amber Eyes and I, of course, have a very fond relationship. Maybe she was just sort of saying hi. This light is going to be horrible. Hang on. Sorry, the shadows are a bit long, everyone. Now, viewers, you're all debating that this is Blondie and not Birmingham Boy number 3. I think that if you look at him now, in this light, you will see that I think he is number 3 from yesterday. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not great with this sort of thing, but he's got the same kind of mane that I saw yesterday. So that's who I think that is. And she clearly is not that interested. As she's shown us, and as one of our viewers said, perhaps she does have a headache, but that's definitely Amber Eyes of the Nkahuma Pride, my favourite lioness. And for those who think that that isn't, that this might be Blondie, you can see his mane isn't quite as blonde as it looked when it was being backlit. You see that? And you can also maybe see that he had that limp. And that limp is quite characteristic, I think, of that pom-pom-tailed, or poorly pom-pommed B-boy number 3. What did we call him yesterday, Brian? What did we call him? Poor pom-pom or something like that?
Something along those lines.
Scaffy pom-pom. Scaffy pom-pom, that's what it was. Skinny pom-pom, there we go. Thank you, Kirsten. I think Skinny pom-pom, rather than B-boy 3, is a much better name. Good afternoon. What's your name? Yeah, my name is Amber. Ah, hello Amber. My name is Skinny Pom-Pom. Inspirational. No wonder she's not keen on meeting. Now ideally, of course, for the light and everything else, we want them to be lying precisely 180 degrees from the way that they are now. We get a wonderful picture of both of their faces in the shining sun. I'm not going to move from here, everybody, because we'll get between us and the vehicle behind us, at least in front of us. So let's just see what happens here. If Amber and Skinny Pom-Pom decide to consummate their morning meeting. And this wind is icy. So although it looks like it's warm and sunny out here, it is sunny, but warm it ain't. And were one to want a scarf, the mane of Skinny Pom-Pom, of course, would be a fantastic way to keep your head warm. I think that's also why she's accepting him lying so close by. Normally they don't. And in typical cat-like fashion, do you see how she lifted her head? She's watching the leaves go past her, and they've arrested her attention. Very nice. Oh, a slightly odd angle here. Paige in Tennessee, you say, does this Birmingham have mange? No, he doesn't have mange. There is one of them that has mange. I think it's number 2 if I'm not mistaken, but I might be mistaken. He's okay. He doesn't have the same mange on his belly that the other one does. Oh no, he looks absolutely fine to me. He's in, apart from that limp that he's got, he's in very good condition. Brian, wouldn't you say this is the same chap we were with yesterday?
Yeah, I would.
And their manes have got so much fuller in the last year. You know, it's almost exactly a year since they arrived here and chased the Matimbas to the koppies where we saw them. The koppie today, you saw it in Londolozi. You saw how far away that was. And it's almost a year since the Matimba 2 males were tossed out of this area by these 4 marauding Birminghams. And their manes have filled out a lot. They're not They're still not the biggest lions, and not nearly the size of those Matimbas, but they're obviously filled with courage. Gee whiz, Brian, just look up there quickly. Look at those vultures coming over here. These vultures have been blown in on the storm, I think. And there's a huge thermal above us. Now they're up. Look at that. They're up, Brian. There's action. Michael, you're interested in why it is that they have black spots on their noses as they get older. I don't know why. I'm not sure why it happens like that, but it most certainly is a reality that as they get older, black spots develop on their noses, and by the time they're 6 to 7 years old, their noses are completely black. Here we go. I don't think he's managing, to be honest. It's an astounding noise. There we go. There's definitely some kind of contact there. There we go. Success. So you saw her response this time around completely different from the last time. The last time she just kind of lay there looking slightly disappointed. Now she's flipped over, and you saw she gets that very aggressive, flips around very aggressively, of course, because when he withdraws it is deeply painful, and last time clearly there was no pain. Marvellous. More cubs on the way, with any luck. Now for those of you who have not watched cat mating before, this will go on for roughly 5 days, and they'll probably mate 3 times an hour or so for 5 days. Just let that sink in. 3 times an hour for 5 days. Diane, very nice question from you. You say, will he attack her if he doesn't receive her? No, he won't. He doesn't really have that option. And like with many of the animals out here, the kind of concept of, I guess you would call it rape, is almost impossible, because unless the female is absolutely willing, it's impossible for the male to mate. Elephant's a wonderful example of that. Unless the female is prepared to mate with him, he cannot mate with her, because she has to stand in a specific way that he cannot make her do. Now they're looking up at those vultures, everyone. That's what they're looking at. See them watching the sky? So he won't attack her, he'll just get more and more frustrated. And you know, if she's not ready to mate, she won't go into estrus, she won't give off the scent of estrus, and so he won't become kind of interested. So when she goes into estrus, it obviously brings out a whole suite of hormones in his body that start to course through his body, and unless those hormones are just not there if she's not in estrus. So it's not like a male lion will come across a female and think, yes, I think we should mate now. It doesn't work like that. He only gets that kind of instinct when she is ready to mate. And they're watching these vultures. And the vultures, I'm just looking now, they're right behind us, so we can't put the camera on them. But they found the thermal. That's why they were all flying towards that one place. There's a thermal rising above us, and that's why they went there. It's not that they were coming down onto a kill or something like that. Now Justin, you've asked the question. I hoped you wouldn't, but I will answer it for you, of course. It's a little bit awkward. You say, why is it so painful for her when he withdraws? He's got what we've called a barbed penis. Now, I'm going to leave you to Google that because you can actually get pictures of it. But basically what it is it's a penis, obviously, and it's got these sort of back-facing spikes on the back of it, which means that when he's not to put too fine a point on it, as he penetrates, it works perfectly fine. I mean, works sort of normally, but then as it withdraws, those spikes, which are recurved, kind of hurt her, and the reason for that is that it creates a contraction, and it makes her contract, and what that does is to create a situation where I think it helps her to ovulate, and I think it helps him. I think it helps the sperm to get up to where it needs to be. And it's almost completely unlike with leopards, where she will kind of stick her back end into his nose. She just kind of walks away, and that's normally what starts off the mating with lions. And if you watch him carefully, he'll try and trip her. He'll just sort of flip her back legs with his front legs. Let's drive on through here. Ah, no more. He wants to have a snooze. Say when, Brian. Is that alright? And you can notice, you can see here how very amber her eyes are, how very orange. I think they're oranger than amber, to be honest. So do we have any consensus from the viewers? Is this, are we happy to call this Birmingham Boy 3 or Skinny Pom Pom as opposed to Blondie? Because you can see his mane ain't so blonde when it is backlit. Okay, good. Alright, thank you viewers. I believe you are happy with Birmingham Boy number 3, but as Kirsten says, not sure if you're happy with the name Skinny Pom Pom. What do you think, Brian?
I like Skinny Pom Pom.
I think so. Especially when you look at the pom-pom on her tail, it's much more impressive than his. See her just gently she's gently tickling him there with her pom-pom. Safari Dean used to have the next rangers meeting in this area. They should take a vote as to whether I should ever be allowed to name an animal again. Safari Dean, if I didn't know better, I'd say that you were casting aspersions on my naming abilities. It's just rude. George and Charlotte and Zara, brilliant names all. Skinny Pom Pom. Alright, let's go across to Jamie for an update. We're going to stay with these lions for a little bit longer and see what they do.
And a quick update for all of you from our side. We've left the hyenas for now. They didn't look like they were going to be stirring anytime soon. And I thought I'd just come through and check the den site on Gallagher Shortcut. Unfortunately, I think the lure of the buffalo proved too much and nobody's home at the moment. But judging by the tracks, the number of tracks, the different sizes of the different tracks, I have a feeling that the whole clan has decided to move back to the Gallagher Shortcut den. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to just wait and see. Perhaps this afternoon we'll pay them a quick visit. But for now, we're extending our search a little bit further afield, The sun has come out, and I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm seriously appreciating the raise in temperature that it has brought with it. I almost want to go and find somewhere to park and just bask in its lovely light. The one thing I've noticed on my rounds while I've been checking the northern boundary and the hyena den is there are lioness tracks absolutely everywhere. Going this way, going that way, going up and down. I'm trying to account for all of the lionesses. So Amber Eyes is mating with, I know you said with James, I mean mating with the male while James is there. The other two lionesses are on the buffalo kill. One has got cubs in Torchwood, so she's probably around there looking after them. We're missing one. She could of course be mating somewhere, the guys just haven't found her. I wonder if she's not hidden away somewhere in here. I'm trying to work out which one it could possibly be. I'm looking forward to the time when all of this has settled down a little bit and the Nkuhumas come back together when the cubs are old enough to move out and about with the rest of the pride. I am very much looking forward to seeing the Nkuhuma ladies reunited once again with a new supplement of little babies keeping them company. I think that would be wonderful. It is going to be wonderful. And of course, sorry, these lions have just been absolutely everywhere today. I can't show you those tracks at the moment for a very good reason that I can't explain to you. You'll just have to take my word for it. I'll look for a nicer track elsewhere. Sorry, we can't talk about the Nkuhumas without, of course, thinking of their young boy Junior, the Nkuhuma male. Now, HK, you were wondering if there's any updates about him. So obviously the last update we had was that Junior has found a friend in the form of either a Mangeni sub-adult male or one of the other young males. We don't know exactly where his buddy came from. We haven't yet worked it out. But we do know that he has a friend, which dramatically increases his chances of survival. HK, I'm afraid to say I haven't heard any further updates. Just want to show you these lion tracks for a brief moment. I can now. The light's much nicer. I'm going to try and jump out ever so quickly. I can't. My door is stuck. Ow. There we go. Nothing a little bit of a sort of force doesn't fix. This is, just judging by where we are, we're probably about half a mile or so away from where James is. I think this is most likely the lioness that James is with. Now I've put my shadow in the track. This is her back track here, and I know it's a lioness just by the size. So this is her back foot. There's just the hint of the 3 lobes in the back pad, and there her toes are telling us which direction she's going in. To me, apart from the size of the track, lionesses' tracks to me are a little bit neater and always a bit sharper than that of the male. The males are more rounded and there's a bit more space between their toes. Now, a lioness tracks is lioness tracks are a bit more compact. If this is a male lion, my drawing stick is not ideal. If this were a male lion and this was his back track, you'd be looking at a track that's probably that much, ooh, that's a slight exaggeration, that much bigger than a lioness track. So it's almost, lions and lionesses is probably the easiest one to tell the difference between, just in terms of size. Male tracks are enormous. Even when the males are still young, when they're still around 2 years old, their feet are still much, much bigger than the females. I wonder where Junior will end up. Speaking about males and females, will be interesting. Of course, we were all very concerned about him in his initial stages of separation from the rest of the pride, particularly when he made a surprise return, which wasn't ideally timed. The lionesses had just had cubs, and I can't imagine they were terribly pleased to see him. Oh, no more do you have to look at the footprints of lions, for James has the real thing in the flesh.
No more do you have to look at footprints. There we are, everybody. Nothing has changed, but mercifully these lions have not gone to sleep and put their heads down. So here they are, and they are just sitting, and I think he is waiting for her to make the next move, as it were. And with any luck, we too will be blessed with the sighting of them mating again. I've always felt slightly, well, I don't know, I felt slightly bad about watching animals mate. I don't know why we put such an enormous import on it. You know, we tend to consider it hugely I mean, I don't want to use the term entertaining, but we certainly have the impression that it's one of the most astounding things to see, and it is. But why is that the case? When for us as human beings it's the most private of activities, and yet when animals get busy with it, we are fascinated by it, and we film it, and we I don't know, we become really excited by it. It's one of the, you know, if you've got a mating pair of anything on the reserve, we'll make an effort to go and view them. And I've always found that slightly incongruous, given the private nature of our own attitudes to the activity. What do you think? Let me know if you like. #SafariLive. Questions at WildEarthTV. It is a Sunday morning. And it is a beautiful Sunday morning. There's a wind blowing, of course. You can see from the beautiful mane hair of this male lion. And the weather is beautifully clear now, of course, because this cold front has come through here. You can hear the wind blowing still, and these guys are smelling things on the wind. They're constantly looking up. Otherwise, I think they'd have gone to sleep by now. They're starting to warm up a bit in the sun. They may well go to sleep a little bit later, or she's certainly starting to look a little bit like she might want to go to sleep. And he will drop off. If she doesn't move from here, he'll nod off, I'm pretty sure. But I think she's coming into estrus. If she isn't in estrus, she's certainly coming into estrus. Oh, nice big yawn. And they're smelling things. See, they're both looked now. They've heard something, maybe. There was a big herd of nyala around here earlier. There are impala around here. They are near one of the only bits of water, and that's at the Djuma pan, which is just across the dam wall. You know, we drove across the dam wall. It's the only bit of water that there is around here. There, she's nodded off, and that will be his cue to nod off as well. Anna-Marie, you wondering about why lions you think don't seem to like waterbuck. Anna-Marie, I don't think that they dislike waterbuck. I think that they it's a bit of a misconception that they don't eat waterbuck. Here we go. You see how he will move now? Just because she's thought about standing up. Ooh, very close by, you can see. Just over there, lions too. She doesn't seem that keen. Not sure we're gonna get round there. Oh, there, it's happening, everybody, it's happening. Sorry. Now you see, I don't think that consummated again. You could see that she didn't roll over. She didn't take a swat at him. Although she is rolling around a little bit now. That's generally indicative that there was a success. So maybe that was a semi-success. that indicate to mate, he wouldn't bother with that unless there was food in the offing. So there are only two reasons a male lion wants to be with the females. One is food, and the other is to mate. Otherwise, you seldom see them together in this area. Very often, you'll find, most often, unless there's food or mating going on, the males will be on their own, patrolling their territory, and the females will be on their own. There's something on the wind too, every time she lifts her head and looks around and sniffs towards the north, which is odd because that is certainly not where the rain is, where the wind is coming from. Amazing Sunday morning activities. You can see how white the light is now because the sky is completely clear. And those clouds of the morning have blown off. And I think we're in for a chilly but clear day. It's very nice. Now Cheetah, you're in India and you're wondering about whether the mane of the lion is thicker in summer or in winter. Cheetah, no, it doesn't change. It just gets fuller and fuller the older they get. But it certainly doesn't get thinner during the summer months. And while it looks like a pretty good scarf to have around your face at this time of the year, I imagine in summer they must get very hot. Maybe it does thin slightly, but I don't think so. I can't think of a lion that I've seen during the summertime that I think, oh yeah, no, he's definitely he's got a much thinner mane. And also, their fur doesn't seem to look like it gets much longer. Certainly it does with the impala and the waterbuck and the nyala. They tend to get a bit fluffier during the winter months, but I don't notice an obvious difference with the cats like this. I don't really seem to see a difference between the length of the fur between now and in summer. And I mean, it gets very, very hot here in summer, but it doesn't get very cold. I mean, it's probably, even with the wind chill factor now, it's probably maybe 9 or 10 degrees Celsius. Which is not that cold, especially if you're in the sun and sheltered from the wind. So I think that's why they probably don't get thick fur. Up in Johannesburg it tends to be different on the Highveld, where it gets much colder than this, much more consistently. Then the animals tend to put on a lot more hair during the winter months. And Justin, nice question from you about the male lion and his mane, and how you want to know how long it can get. Justin, a male lion's mane, it really depends on where the animal is from and what his genetics are. So if you Google a picture of a Barbary lion, for example, a Barbary lion has got hair almost all the way down his back, all the way down his front, to his underbelly. And so that's the lion that's got the biggest mane. Now that's, in theory, lions from the Atlas Mountains. I think, much like with white lions, they've been kind of inbred in captivity, and that's probably why their manes are so full. They've been selectively bred for those very full manes. But yes, they did occur in the wild up in the Atlas Mountains of northern Africa. That was the Barbary lion. Out here, their manes get... basically, they can get quite a lot longer than that. And I mean, the oldest lion I've seen around here was about 16, he was. And his hair was so long, it didn't cover much more of his body than it does on that lion that you're looking at now. But it got longer, and it lay down on his back, on his neck. So if you can see it now, you can see it basically stands up because it's not that long. But when it gets really long, it'll kind of fold on either side, and it actually looks like somebody's combed it into a parting. So that's the sort of lengths of mane that you get. And of course, a lion's mane is... She looks like she's all just too exhausted by this. A lion's mane is coloured according to the amount of testosterone that he has in his body, and you can see his mane is starting to go black. And a very black-maned lion generally has got a greater proportion of testosterone in his body than a less black-maned lion. And of course Ginger and Hairy Belly, which were the two Matimba males, and whoever named them, I think, well, I mean, surely Skinny Pom-Pom's not much worse than that. Hairy Belly had a much darker mane than Ginger, and he seemed to do the bulk of the mating from what I could tell. I didn't spend a very long time with them out here, but certainly any mating that I saw with the Matimba males and a female was normally with Hairy Belly, because he had that very black mane. Now Max Mum, nice question from you about, I mean, it's particularly pertinent to a coalition of 4 males. You say, what are the chances of another male taking over the mating? Max Mum, I'd say very small. It's very unlikely that it would happen that another male would come in here and sort of take over, but I don't think it's impossible. And certainly there is some evidence to suggest that lions do have multi-paternity, so a litter of lion cubs may have more than one father. And so, yeah, she might mate with another male. Normally what happens, though, that whoever gets in first will go the course, so he will stay with her until her estrus cycle is over. And interestingly, they tend not to fight over mating opportunities within a coalition. They can fight, but they tend not to. It's unusual for them to fight over females. It's very common for them to box each other senseless over food. But over females, they don't tend to worry that much. Well, that's not always the case, but it is quite often the case. Also, that wind is quite icy, isn't it, Brian?
It's very icy.
I've had to put a blanket on my legs again.
Some might say it's a brutal wind.
Some might describe it as brutal, yes. Felicity, you're in New Zealand. Tell us where in New Zealand next time. Be lovely to know whereabouts in New Zealand you're from. You say, how often will they hunt during the mating period? If they'd just eaten something, they wouldn't hunt at all. Excuse me. But excuse me. Let me just get my composure back. There we are. But if they haven't eaten, these guys don't look very full, so they may well go hunting. And would they hunt together? Yes, they would. They'd hunt cooperatively together. Most likely to be something small that they managed to spot in the bush sort of walking past. Then they might go after it like a nyala or something like that, and they'd probably eat it quite quickly. But they wouldn't, if they were, let's say they just finished a buffalo together there, and you know they had big fat bellies, over the course of the 5 days they wouldn't necessarily need to eat at all. He'd be very hungry at the end of it though. Let's just move a little bit around the corner here. The wind is coming up again. Alright, we're going to wait with these lions and see if they mate again. While we do that, let's go back across to Jamie Patterson and find out where she's headed.
Jamie is at Buffelshoek Dam and mercifully moving forward. I have a horrible feeling. You know, when you push a clutch into a vehicle and you start the engine, it shouldn't jump forward when you do that. I have a horrible feeling that Wendy's clutch is about to stop working, which is a little bit of a concern, but nothing too terrible. I'm relatively certain we can fix that in a heartbeat. Hey, how optimistic was that? That was commendable optimism. I'm a little bit worried about changing gear, because I'm scared we might get stuck in neutral. Okay, should we do it? Should we do it? We're going to be brave. We're in first. Let's see if we can do second. No, we're good. Hey, we're okay. So what we're going to do is meander in the direction of home. We're not going to go home straight away. We seem to be working well. I'm just a little bit scared about turning off the vehicle and starting it up again. Uh-oh. Oh, Wendy. It's okay, Wendy. We'll go and have a look at her when we get her back to camp. Hopefully it's just a pipe that's leaking for some reason. Okay. Oh, the joys of vehicles. Our vehicles work very, very hard. They cover enormous distances twice a day, every day, over terrain that's not exactly your average suburban road. So you can imagine they take quite a lot of damage. And I think that Wendy's just decided that her clutch cable is getting a bit old and worn. The problem is, given Wendy's current age, she's an old lady, as are all of our little Land Rovers. They're stopping making the parts that you need to replace them, which means that when things like clutch cables go, we have to go and get them specially made. Luckily for us, Steph is near Hoedspruit, and it should be a relatively easy fix. Unless we see something extraordinary along this road, I don't think I'm going to stop the car. He's trying to gauge. I think we're okay. C. Howard, you have a fantastic question. You're one of our newer viewers. While we stop to... Oh, are we going to do it? Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to brave the stopping. C. Howard is wondering, as our newer viewer, how on earth we are live streaming this from the middle of the African bush. It's one of those incredible things that still boggles my mind, and unfortunately, C. Howard, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because my grasp of the way in which these things function is relatively limited. So what happens is Dave does some magic camera work, he's sitting on the back, and then some machinery does some work in the middle of the car, behind, sort of at the back where all the fans are, and I don't go because I am not technically minded. And that somehow bounces a signal up through a big antenna that sits on the back of our vehicle. While our buffalo, since our buffalo are hidden from view, perhaps, can we get a view of our antenna, Dave? There we go. Dave's going to give you a behind-the-scenes look. There you go. So that broadcasts it up towards towers in various places. There are our repeaters, and the repeater bounces it back to the final control, which then somehow does something magic, sends our picture flying into the sky, and it goes to a satellite, I believe, in London, which then bounces it back across the entire world. So there you go. That was the most technologically clued-up explanation of how on earth we broadcast from the middle of the African bush. I think it's incredible that people can watch what is happening right now with probably about I don't know what the delay is exactly, maybe about 2 seconds. But it's like watching a live sports game, except even better, it's a safari in the middle with all of these incredible animals happening right here and right now. And what's so cool about it is because it's live and it's immediate, you can ask questions about what's happening in front of you, which is probably the most magical part, because you can actually be on safari with us. And of course, because it's live, there's no second takes, there's no editing. We can't make anything up or twist things to suit a story that we've written. The animals write the story for us, they are the stars of the show. And we just try and do our best to either find them, bring their stories to you, tell you a little bit about them, and then hopefully be able to interpret what they're up to. There's no making things up here. Ready for this, everybody? Let's not do the jump forward. Okay, we're okay. I think maybe we just had a bit of an airlock. Perhaps that was it. Because the clutch seems to be functioning perfectly now. Okay. Wonderful. Well, since we don't have our buffalo to show you anymore, or indeed much else in the way of mammal life around Buffelshoek Dam, let's go back to the lions, who are showing signs of stirring.
They were showing signs of stirring, everybody, but these seem to be over, those stirrings, and now they've gone back to sleep. The male stood up, stretched, lay down, opened his eyes, and went back to sleep. Now, we've got a little bit of debate apparently over whether this is Skinny Pom Pom or it is Blondie. I'll tell you how we would be able to tell is if I had any pictures that I had from yesterday, but I think I took them all off my camera yesterday. But they will be at home, because you see those very obvious scars that he's got under his eye there. That would be very indicative. So I'll go and have a look when I get home and see whether those scars that we can see under his right eye are in fact there from yesterday or not. My instinct is that this is the same lion. I could be wrong though. I just think because of the limp, the skinny pom-pom and the sort of blackening mane on the top there, that he is most likely the male we saw yesterday. I don't know where she's come from, so I haven't seen her for a while, but the Nkahuma pride is in a state of real flux at the moment. And I can't wait to see the cubs from the one on Torchwood. I think she's moved from there, so she might be around Buffelshoek Dam. Now, Anna-Marie, you are agreeing with John Boy, I think, that having looked at pictures of yesterday's lion, you reckon that this is not number 3 and that it is probably number 1 or Blondie. I'm happy to go with whatever you guys think, because the only thing about this that I don't find congruous with yesterday is those scars under the eye. I don't remember seeing them. But that just might be me being unobservant. And it's not unusual for a male lion to have a limp. That does happen quite a lot. So they could very easily be injured. At the same time, remember we watched that chap yesterday, and he had a twitch. And it may have been a temporary twitch, but he certainly was twitching the left side of his jaw in much the same way that Hairy Belly does when we were viewing him. So maybe this is Blondie. He's going to have to get a new name fairly soon though, because he ain't so blonde no more. Very nice question from Tammy in Seattle. You say, has Amber Eyes ever had cubs? Seems like she's been mating for a long time now and has never produced offspring. Tammy, I think that's a really good point, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't know if she's ever had cubs before. I really couldn't tell you. Yeah, who knows? And she does. I don't think this is the first time I've seen her mate either. So maybe there's an issue there, I don't know. But I haven't known her for long enough to know if she had cubs. And whether or not those 2 youngsters who were eventually killed, certainly one youngster that was killed by the Birmingham boys on their arrival, it was a sort of yearling, and whether that lioness, that young lioness, was at any stage or was born to Amber Eyes, I don't know. But now they are very flat cat. You see that, Brian? Yes, flat cat. The flattest kind of cats. So I think we'll sit with them another 10 minutes or so, and then we might move on and see what else we can see. I might do one more pass past where those cubbies of the Great Queen might be. If she has killed, she'll come back and fetch them, and unfortunately she's gone south, so if she does kill, it's going to be to the south of the boundary, most probably, which is very distressing because we've had such a good run with those cubs. I think we've had them 4 or 5 days in a row. It's been really spectacular. They're having a nice little snooze now on the sun, but this wind is quite bitter. Very unusually bitter for this area. Brutal, yes, Brian. Brutal. Brutal, brutal wind. Yeah, I don't remember that scar from yesterday. Michael, a good question from you about whether the timing of the cubs, and you say, don't lionesses normally have cubs at the same time? And why aren't these ones doing the same thing? Michael, they don't always. They do sort of try and time it, but it's not unusual to find a pride with 3 or 4 different ages. I think it's more coincidence that it happens, that they have their cubs together, and that coincidence is brought about by the fact that when a male coalition takes over an area, what happens is that the females will come into estrus round about the same time. It's exactly what's happened here. Some of them will fall pregnant, some will not to start with, and if they do eventually fall pregnant, well, then they will have cubs together. Then normally those cubs, when they are raised, 2.5 years later they'll go off, the females will come into estrus again, and the males will mate with them again. And so you can see that the timing, because of the male coalition takeovers, is almost always going to be fairly similar. But it's not timed like that, I don't think, for any other reason. It does help the pride because they do cross-suckle their cubs, but they certainly don't have to give birth at the same time. I hope that makes sense. I think it's by virtue of the fact that when the males take over an area, the females will come into estrus at the same time. Now, of course, that may well be an evolutionary advantage. They may well do that because they want to have cubs at the same time. But I've seldom seen a pride with cubs all the same age. It's quite often there's a month or 2 gap between them. Hello Heidi in Kempton Park. Kempton Park, everybody, is in Johannesburg. Nice to have you with us, Heidi. I bet if it's this windy and cold here, I can only imagine what it's like there. Probably crystalline clear, driving, biting wind, and you're definitely inside huddling, I bet. Heidi, you want to know, do they mate at night as well? Yes, absolutely they do. They'll mate all the time, except when they're sleeping, of course. And in this case, I think this snooze is going to last quite a long time. So we'll give them another 5 minutes and then we'll move on from here and see what else we can find for the last half hour. And while we're sitting here, just to remind you, it is of course Kirsten's birthday, but it's also Rebecca's birthday, if you can believe it. This is fantastic. We've got a question from China, which I've unfortunately missed. Go again with that, Kirsten. Look at the impala there. And the question from Cheetah in China is, are there lion whisperers on this safari? Brian, are you a lion whisperer?
No.
No. Cheetah, no. We don't have lion whisperers at all on safari. We have trackers, and the trackers will go out on foot and they will follow the tracks of the lions. And sometimes we do the same thing and we follow the lions, and that's how we find them. But there are also lots of vehicles out. There's a beautiful impala which the lions have failed to notice, and the impala have failed to notice the lions as well. So cheating, there are lots of vehicles around, and so that's how we find the animals here. We don't whisper to them. I've met one woman who claims to be a big cat whisperer, and yeah, it's a very rare skill, I suppose. And so we don't have any here. Ryan, have you ever met a lion whisperer?
No, I've never even tried whispering to lions.
Well, you should try. Perhaps not right now.
No.
Yeah. Let's try it off air in case it has an adverse effect and they run away. It's lovely to hear from you, Cheating in China. Please keep talking to us and please keep watching. It's great to have you watching all the way from the Far East. Safari Dean, that's quite a nice question actually. It's about, I suppose it brings wider issues of African towns to bear. You say, how often are big animals found in Johannesburg, or do they find their way to Johannesburg? Well, other than Brian and Brent Leo Smith, big animals in terms of wild animals don't occur there anymore at all. It's a massive metropolitan area of over 5 or 6 million people, and so big animals, no, none. You might see a northern Pretoria, which is the capital north of Johannesburg. We have found a leopard before, which is quite interesting, and they still find leopard there sometimes, but that's because that's leopards that come out of the mountains and into the city sometimes, but that's very, very seldom. Highly unusual, and you'd be far more likely to find, I don't know, bears, I think, in towns around the United States than you would big wild animals in Johannesburg. It's a massive industrial sort of economic hub. That said, there are lots of little towns around Africa, and especially in places like Botswana. There's a town called Kasane on the boundary with Zimbabwe, and apparently it is extremely common to find elephants wandering down the main street. It's a little dusty town, though. It's not a city. But our cities are very much like the American cities, where it'd be highly, highly unusual, in fact almost impossible, to find a wild animal there. I'm just going to get on the radio quick and help somebody into the sighting. Station looking for sighting of lions at Gari Dam. They are static on the eastern side of the dam wall, just to the south of the junction with Central Road. And you can see his nose starting to change colour. Oh, and he's now so bored, he's going to turn the other way. Alright, we're going to leave this position, I think, and while we do that, let's head across to Jamie and get an update from her. We might pop back just at the very end of the drive, but let's go and see if we can't find an elephant or two around the corner.
I think James and I are sort of very much on the same page. I've also been looking for elephants. There are tracks everywhere, but they appear to be hiding for now. I have an update for you that's actually very, very exciting news, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Apparently, I was chatting to Taxon, and Aubrey found a very exciting set of tracks. Now, Aubrey and Taxon, of course, know this area like the back of their hands, which is also an expression I don't really get, because I don't know about you, but I haven't spent all that much time studying the back of my hands. But anyway, they know this area and they know the animals incredibly well. And Aubrey thinks that the Nkuhuma lioness with the cubs that was on Torchwood has moved them into the drainage line system around Nyala Road North and Gwari Pan Road. Those of you who are a little bit more familiar with the geography of the area will know what I mean. For those of you who are not, that's good news, because we can drive there. And at that age, I did say that they're going to start moving about now. They must be close to 6 weeks old. She's going to be, bless you, Dave. She's going to be starting to introduce them to the rest of the pride and bringing them with her, rather than leaving them, whoa, behind. There's a tree in the road. That tree was not there when I last drove this road. Anyway, terribly exciting news. Somebody's sitting on their game drive mic, which is why I went suddenly slack-jawed there with a lack of concentration, because there's a conversation happening that is definitely not intentionally broadcast over the game drive comms. Somebody's sitting on their radio, which happens every now and again. We've all done it. But exciting stuff. Prospect of lion cubs is awesome. Now, Kathy, while we have a look at our Nyala, you would like to know... Ooh, let's go forward a little bit. Where are you, little guys? Oh, hidden. Hidden away. Kathy's asked a behind-the-scenes question while we're talking about the Game Drive channel. She wants to know what happens at Rangers meeting. Every single Rangers meeting that I have ever been to, Kathy, one point of conversation is game drive comms and the etiquette thereof, trying not to clog up the radio waves with excessive chatter, especially for us because we've got several voices in our ear at one time that we can't afford to not listen to. So having people talk about cricket scores and such like, it's always a bit tricky to tune out. Then there's a conversation about off-roading. That always happens as well. Invariably somebody's driven over a tambuti tree somewhere. And it's just making sure that everybody's on the same page and connecting. A chance to air praise and grievances wherever necessary. Oh, lovely girl. So beautifully hidden behind the trees. They just look so gorgeous in this morning light. Looking at us. It's alright. We're not scary. Shame. They've also been struggling due to the wind, making everything more nervous. And then, Kathy, things like naming cubs, and who gets to name them, and what the decision may be. There is probably the best shot of an Inyala you will ever see. Beautiful. If you look really carefully, you can see one eye. She framed herself very nicely behind the tree. Mostly, Kathy, to be honest, what we talk about is the animals themselves. So we'll give updates on, because obviously everybody feels, we all know the individual leopards, lions, whatever else they may be. We talk about which elephant bulls are a little bit cheeky, which ones should be avoided, which ones are wonderful, what the leopards are doing, how they're doing. That, I think, is the predominant discussion that happens behind Rangers meetings. Behind closed doors. Now, Justin, on the subject of naming things, you'd like to know why Djuma is called Djuma. Now, in theory, Djuma is the call of the lion. You can chat a little bit to James, perhaps ask him the same question, Justin, and see what his response to that is. I've heard other things about what Djuma actually means, and somebody's told me, whether or not this is true, is that it actually is the contact call between a mother and her cubs. That very soft, low Djuma. I like that idea. So it's either way it is related to lions, it is the call of the lion. And it's an interesting little aspect of the history of this area, that on Cheetah Plains there's a Djuma Dam, because of course Cheetah Plains was owned by the original, or the owners of Djuma, the now owners of Djuma. So it is clearly a word that had a very special connotation for them all. Interestingly, I met up with somebody who grew up on Mala Mala, and his cousin or brother, I can't remember, I was chatting to both of them. He grew up on Cheetah Plains when it was still Djuma, and this was before this whole section where we are driving around now was included in the whole Wasabi Sand. And they described how they used to walk through where we are now to go and get stuff from the shops at the township Dixie. Right, we're going to look for more mammal species. In the meantime, James has found one for you.
There's a steenbok, everybody. Now, we've parked a long way away, so if it's a little shaky, it's because every time I breathe, the car moves slightly on account of my vast mass. But we've stopped away from the steenbok by about, Brian, what does your camera say? 50 meters?
Yeah, about 35.
You really think that's only 35 meters? 37 meters away, plus minus is the focus, not sure I believe it. And they think that she thinks we can't see her because we're so far away, but she's watching us very carefully. Now what's nice about this situation is that because she thinks we can't see her, she's going to stand still. See, she's chewing her cud, and we very seldom get to view them for any length of time, because when you spot them, they're quite close by, and then once they realize they've been seen, they run. And she's standing dead still, like a stone, hence steenbok, because that's their defense. trying not to be seen. Now this is not a nice day for a steenbok, simply because the wind is blowing so very strongly, which means those huge ears that she uses like satellite dishes to hear potential threats coming along are severely compromised by the rustling in the leaves. And while we find the rustling in the leaves quite appealing, the steenbok not so much. I believe you were being asked why Djuma is called Djuma. As far as I understand it, everybody, Djuma is the sound, the Shangaan sound for a lion call. So if you think of a lion calling, it goes Djuma, 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 and that's why it's called Djuma. But I have heard another Shangaan word for lion roaring, and that's Vomba, Guvomba. And I think one of them is that soft call, the Jo, Jo, Jo. And the Vomba is probably the overriding roar that they make. You know, they go roar, Brian. You know when they do that?
Yes.
Roar! 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 Yeah, just like that. Brent likes to do his impression of a lion roar. That's mine. Roar!
Roar!
Roar! Roar!
Roar!
Roar! Roar! Roar! Ow! I'm sure they've crash cut to Jamie by now. We're driving up Hyena Road at the moment, and we're hoping to find an elephant because there were some called in here. So we might be very lucky. I can smell some elephants actually. That sweet honey leathered smell. Ooh. This is one of those great questions that I'm unable to answer. Robin, you say, why is it that elephants go into must while no other mammal goes into must or into a state like must? Robin, it's such an obvious question that I'm astounded I've never thought of it. And it's such a good question, and I don't know the answer. First of all, I don't think they are the only animals. I think that you will find there are various mammal species, not many, where the males go into some kind of heightened testosterone level and they go and they look for females to mate with. Why would they do that? Why would they go into must as opposed to just like most other mammals just mate with a female when she's ready to mate? I don't know. Robin, I'm going to say it's got something to do with their vast size and the fact that when they are, that to maintain perhaps, here we go, this is a wild guess, to maintain the levels of testosterone needed to keep them perhaps to make the amount of sperm and that they need to, perhaps it's energy inefficient for them to maintain those hormonal levels all the time. And perhaps also it might be a little bit of a peacock's tail situation. Now I know that sounds ridiculous when you think about a big mammal, but when a peacock's tail has got absolutely zero evolutionary advantage but to help him mate. So it's an example of what we call sexual selection. And so the peacock with the biggest tail is the one that is going to mate. Or the most impressive tail is the one that's going to be selected most likely by a peahen. Now maybe elephants have been sexually selected for that very pungent smell and the massively increased testosterone levels, and maybe they come into them, it's inefficient for them to be in that state all the time, it's energetically massively expensive for them to be in that state all the time, so perhaps they come into that state periodically. And the more they display that, the more likely it is that they'll be selected by a female, but they can't maintain it all the time because it's too expensive. Does that give you some kind of an answer? I'll try and do a little bit of research into it, but I think it's a really great question, and that would be my guess. Because I can't think of another mammal. I seem to recall hearing of other mammals that go into a similar state, but I can't actually recall seeing I've certainly never seen another mammal in some kind of heightened state like that. Great question. But, okay, so here's a, let's think about buffalo, for example. Buffalo, when they live in a herd and when they're around females, they have their gonads, or their testicles, get much larger, and they hang down below the, very impressively down below, underneath the body. And when they're not in a herd, and when the chances of them breeding are not there anymore, then they tend to atrophy. Now, I suppose that might be considered something like a must, and it's not a permanent position apparently. So if a buffalo's testicles can atrophy and sort of go up towards the body, and then if it goes around females that are in estrus again, they will drop again. And in fact, here we go, my brain is starting to unlock all sorts of things here. If we look at male impala, surely their rut must be considered something of a must, period, because they're not always ready to mate, and during their period, their rut, their testicles drop, their testosterone levels go up, their muscles get much bigger around the neck region, and as they prepare to mate. And that must be considered a kind of must period, because the rest of the year they're not in that same period. So maybe it's just that the elephants are non-seasonal breeders, and so they don't come into must at the same time. That's probably a better description of what's going on. There you are. There are a number of guesses. You can pick any of them as you like. I'm going to just stop here and let's have a listen, because apparently the effluents were around here. They may have headed towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is not too far from where we are now, but all I can hear is the rustling of the wind in the trees as opposed to the breaking of branches. Alright, we don't have very long left. I'm going to speed towards Buffelshoek Dam quickly. See if we don't see them there. It's mercifully starting to warm up a bit now. Let's go across to Jamie while we head to Buffelshoek Dam.
Oh, while James bounds off towards Buffelshoek Dam, I'm on my way back to our lionesses just to check in before the end of the sunrise safari, see whether there's been any changes or whether or not the hyena have moved any closer or have moved farther away, or if they're just sleeping still. Let's go and find out what's happening there. Gonna move relatively quickly, we're quite close, but I want to get there with a bit of time to spend with them before we finish off for the morning. And I think we might be really lucky, we might have them all to ourselves. I'm still really excited about the prospect of these cubs. I've seen a lot of articles recently as we go towards our meat-eating lions about people feeding their dogs and cats on a vegan diet. Now, Justin, you wanted to know whether I think a lion could survive on a vegan diet, and the answer is absolutely 100% not. They're obligate carnivores, which means they have to eat meat. They've had thousands of years of evolution telling them that this is what they are geared towards eating. Their digestive system works on that principle. Their teeth work in that way. There's no way on earth a lion would be able to lie down with the metaphorical lamb, so to speak. They have to eat meat. It is just the way of things. It'd be interesting though. I imagine that the vegan lion would be teased by all of his friends about his life choices. But no, there's no way on earth. There's no way that they would get the protein that they need, because their digestive systems they don't have either the ruminant system with the 4-chambered stomach, nor do they have the bacteria that the hindgut fermenters like zebra do. And those would play a crucial role in providing those animals with the nutrients that they need. We don't really have huge protein-rich legumes, which a lion could munch into. Look, sometimes lions eat grass, sometimes they eat leaves. That's only really when they have an upset stomach, though. Okay. Not a silly question at all from Joey in Australia. Joey wanted to know whether lion cubs ever catch birds or lizards to eat. It's not a silly question. Perhaps less so than leopard cubs might, because leopard cubs start practicing their hunting skills a little bit earlier than lion cubs do. But no, lion cubs definitely practice. They play hunt. They're not as good as it as leopard cubs are, because they're social predators. They're social. Oh, hello. This buffalo carcass has attracted scavengers. A hooded vulture takes to the sky for now, and he's going to settle and wait for his opportunity to pick at the scraps. Looking beautiful, I think, in the morning sun, despite their reputation for being rather ugly creatures. So Joey, those hunting skills that baby cats practice, baby cubs, baby kittens, whatever they may be, are essential for their survival, as is the playing that they do with each other. So that the play with their siblings and with their cousins builds up the coordination and the strength that they're going to need at a later stage. They're just practicing the skills they'll need to be big, fearsome hunters like our lionesses that we're about to have a look at. Both of whom have, I think for now, sated their appetites and have settled down for a time spent resting in the shade. Hey girls, it's okay. Alright. There we go. Panting away. We spoke this morning about the fact that their digestive process produces an enormous amount of heat. Their carnivorous digestive process. And that in turn makes them hot, even on a winter's day like today, where the wind carries with it, despite the warmth of the sun, the wind certainly carries a chill. But for them, I think at this point, they're uncomfortably warm, which is why they are panting, as they always do with full bellies. A fantastic observation while we sit and watch our lions on a Sunday morning that has been very much lion-filled, I would say. Robert's been looking closely at our lions and was wondering, why do lionesses, or why do lions in general, have white eyeliner? And that's a brilliant observation, Robert, and there's a very, very good reason for it. It's because they're nocturnal. So what that white does, in addition to the very, very refined tapetum lucidum, the reflective layer at the back of the eye, what that does is that enhances ambient light. So it reflects back, catches any light that might be hitting the eye at an odd angle, and it bounces it back towards the retina itself. So all it does is it is a way of helping to increase the lion's night vision. And they can see as well as we can during the day at night. Not in colour, but perfectly crystally clear. And that's because they are nocturnal creatures, because they get so hot is one of the big reasons why lions are evolved to be nocturnal. It also means during their time of evolution that it reduced the level of competition that they would have come into with the other apex predator that they evolved with, and that of course is human beings. Now, Robert, the opposite is the face of a cheetah. And those of you will be familiar with the idea of the cheetah's tear stains, the dark stripes that run from the corner of the eye down to the nose, and that's because, in complete contrast to the lions, cheetah are diurnal, and in fact do most of their hunting in the morning or in the afternoon when the sun is quite low in the sky. So that reduces glare, like sportsmen or women with those dark stripes that they paint under their cheeks. The cheetah stripe or the cheetah tear tracks do exactly the same thing. They just help to reduce the amount of sunlight hitting the eye. While our lions snooze away, I believe that Mr. Henry would like an opportunity to say farewell to all. Let us head across to him.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Obviously that wasn't my goodbye greeting. That would be very rude indeed. And I'd be in a lot of trouble if I said that as my goodbye. I'm going to just go quickly past where the mating lions are. If there's any action there, then you'll come back to me, I think. But otherwise, it's been a lovely drive this morning. Very cold, lovely scenery, lovely impalas we had. And so I must just thank you all for your questions and comments. It's been a real joy to have you with us. Thank you, Brian, for your efforts. And now, of course, we will sing happy birthday to Rebecca and Kirsten. Would you like to lay down a beat?
Ooh, I would. Are you
Okay, yes, here we go. Happy birthday to the redhead, dangerous redhead. Happy birthday to the crazy Rebecca, she is traveling around the country today, yes. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for this song, but I think that it probably will. I don't care because it's birthday today, it's a Sunday birthday, oh yes. There's an elephant just up ahead right now, I can see it standing on the side of the road. We're gonna stop and have a little look at him, and then we're gonna go home and have birthday eggs Benedict. That's embarrassing. Okay, well there are some elephants, and we'll let Kirsten. We'll just have a quick look at the elephants, everybody. What hundred of everyone? I just want to check. No, it's not. I thought maybe it was that herd that had the bull looking after them that we saw yesterday. But it isn't. It's a small herd of 5. Let's just give them a little bit of space. They're a little bit nervous, especially with the wind. Beautiful. Righty, there it is. Okay everyone, thanks very much. We'll see you later at 3 o'clock. I'm probably going to be on foot, I hope, this afternoon. Until then, stay safe and happy where you are, and wish happy birthday to Rebecca and Kirsten. And bye-bye.
I hear that you've been treated to a world-class James Hendry song. I'm not going to sing Happy Birthday, and that's because I actually quite like Rebecca and Kirsty. I'm quite fond of them, and I don't really want to subject them or you to what would ultimately be a most horrifying experience. Well, I think our lions have decided what they're going to be doing for the day. A lazy Sunday lies ahead. Plenty of time resting in the shade, and every now and again lifting their head up to make sure that the hyenas remember that they are there and that they are in fact paying attention. I don't think we're going to see any dramatic predator interaction while we're away. I think that the hyenas are just going to wait patiently for their opportunity to come and pick up the scraps of this lion kill. And hopefully, in fact I'm going to say definitely, our lionesses will be around for us this afternoon in a couple of hours for the sunset safari, probably in exactly the same position they're in now. Thank you to Dave for his fantastic camera work as always, and thank you to all of you across the world watching and joining us in asking questions and passing your comments. Hope you have a fantastic day until we see you again in a few short hours. Most importantly, thank you to the lovely ladies in Final Control, and happy birthday to Kirsty. Bye everyone, we'll see you later.